It's just idiotic. So what I believe, unless these guys are just numbskulls, and didn't know exactly how they were going to do the exchange and the proof of life, it's more likely that something, I hope it didn't, but it's more likely that something happened to Nancy between getting her and the 10 days. And it might have happened right away because they never provided any proof of life. If something happened to her, then they're going to try to salvage it and just get the money without showing any proof of life. And another possibility, which I hope is not the case, but if something did happen to her and she passed, she's her age, her medical condition, she had to be scared out of her mind. Her blood pressure is skyrocketing. And it would be very easy for something to have happened, for her to have a heart attack or whatever. When that happened, the only thing they could do is try to fake it and get the money, which is not going to happen. Number two is to tell them that something happened to Nancy, and if they want to know where the body is, they have to pay X amount of dollars. Those are the only two explanations that I can possibly think of. And other than them being just numbskulls, they're obviously not rocket scientists. So that alone tells us that if something happened to her, they've got her somewhere, they've got her body somewhere, and they're just trying to figure out what to do, and they're still trying to get money. Now, I'm sure the other people are coming in on this. I've done cases where the serial cases and stuff where people go in and confess all the time. People walk into the police station. Cop friends of mine have said that when they're working on a serial killer case, 6 guys will come into their office and confess. And they take all the information that's known in the newspaper and in the press, and they confess to that, which is why the police always leave something out, something crucial that's left out. In one serial killer removed one of the breasts of the women that he killed. They never released that to any publicity to anyone. So if someone came in and confessed, they would have to know that. If they could say that to the police, now the police know, okay, this guy knows what nobody else knows. Now
hey,
we've
Logan,
got something.
I wanted to ask you real quick, too, with the footage that we have seen that shows that a mysterious man, outside the residence trying to get in. And like you said, it seemed pretty idiotic, at least the actions of what he was trying to do. My question is what investigators are not showing. What is your take on that? Specifically, if we have access with that doorbell camera from what they've seen, we know that there's other devices on the property. We know that they were able to at least recover this footage. What are they not showing us that could tell us exactly, is Nancy Guthrie alive or dead?
A couple of things. That would be in the notes. I think that in the second note that they sent, it sounded like there was something in there other than written. There were things written in there that told them. I believe they told her where the Apple Watch was. They left the Apple Watch at the house. They didn't take it with them because they know that can be tracked. So they left the Apple Watch in a particular place, and they told them in the ransom note where that Apple Watch was. And they told them where some of the damage that was done in the house, I guess removing Nancy or something. A lamp might have been broken or something. And they told that. But it sounded like something was in there that was not just paper and words. In other words, a ring, possibly, a necklace, possibly something from Nancy to prove that they had her. I don't think that's being released. There was a wire. Remember when there was a wire removed from the roof?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Somebody said, I didn't see that. I saw them collecting the wire. I didn't see what it was connected to, but I was told that it was a camera. that they removed from the roof. If that was put there by the kidnappers previously, and that could have been the person that was helping them that put that up there. We did that many times on cases where if I didn't have a camera to do it, and I would leave an agent in a car nearby that would tell me when the police arrived. That gives you a time frame. Now the cops have arrived at the house. Now they're investigating there. It gives you a length of time if they're trying to get across the border or wherever they're going. That camera that was put up there could have leads on it. It was amazing that they pulled that footage out of that doorbell camera. They had to pull it out of the cloud. There's the cell phone. They're not saying anything about the cell phone that was tucked in his pants. And if that cell phone was on, then it pinged. They can do a massive pull from the tower that it's close enough there that pings. They could do it off of 2 or 3 towers in that area and pull every single cell phone that registers there. Now they confiscated 2 or 3 phones from the house that they went to, where the mother-in-law was outside talking to the news. They removed her phone, her daughter's phone. They would have broken into those phones and gotten all the numbers. If any of those phones called that cell phone that was in that guy's pants, now they've got something. That would have been solid. Obviously, they didn't get that, or if they did get it, they're for some reason backing off because they need more information.
Hey, Logan, let me cut you off real quick. We got less than 2 minutes in this segment. What do you think of the fact they detained the wrong guy last night, and that today they say they're scouring the roadways near the Catalina foothills? That tells me that they're not as far along as I had hoped. You got about a minute left. What do you think?
Yeah, they're not. That was a setback. I mean, everybody got excited. Something led them to that house. None of us are going to know what that is. Something led them there, and they're not back at square one. They've still got the guy at the door. They've got to, they've just got to get more out of that, and they've got to get more out of that cell phone, and figure out which one from the tower that cell phone was. That's going to be difficult. That's going to take time. They may still be trying to break those phones for all those phone numbers. I think that they're just, when you hit a blank wall, you think you've got something, you find out it's not there, you hit a blank wall, you kind of go back to the beginning and you start over again and figure out what you missed, what led you in the wrong direction. I think they're recalibrating right now.
Fair enough.
That makes sense.
Fair enough.
Well, Logan, we're about to go to break. Again, really fascinating discussion, especially on the forensic side. One thing I do want to touch on when we get back is just, it seems like there's parallel investigations. You have the Fed response and then the local response, and reports that they've been at odds a little bit. And also we're going to get into that this Nancy Guthrie kidnapping is not certainly the...
Welcome back to Unknown. I'm Brian Webb with Trenton Hooker. We are looking at the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona, and we have private investigator Logan Clarke with Global Pursuit. Logan, we appreciate your time. You've dealt with hundreds of kidnapping cases, and we were on to the point about how much authorities seem to be going back to the daughter's house, Annie, is it Annie?
Annie
and
Guthrie.
Annie Guthrie and her husband there. Seems like a handful of times, if not more. You mentioned the phone, checking out of the phones. What's your take on how much they've been focusing on the family?
Well, that's pretty natural in cases. For an example, if a wife is killed, the first person they hone in on is a husband, or vice versa. It's the last people. They were the last people. The sister and the brother-in-law were the last people to see her alive. I would have asked them, who planned the dinner? How often do you do this dinner? The fact that they did it that night, was that out of order? Was that something that they didn't do all the time? And I'm curious why. I thought I heard that she took an Uber less than 2 miles to their house.
You're correct.
Wouldn't you go and pick your mother up?
Right.
She's 84 years old. She's got these medical problems. You go and pick your mother up. It's 2 miles and drive her to the dinner. She came home in an Uber. Now that might have been because they were drinking wine or something, and they had several glasses of wine. The mother said, "No, you guys shouldn't drive. I'll take an Uber back." That would explain the Uber coming back. I don't know why they had her take an Uber there. The police are continually going back there because they're looking for clues that will pay off. And there's something that keeps bringing them back there. They've found some things that encourage them that there's going to be more evidence there. And I think that's why they keep going back. And you keep going back to the house, searching the areas around. They don't know where Nancy is. So they're probably thinking the possibility that if something happened to her, it happened in the very beginning. I can't imagine how scared Nancy was. Sure, her blood pressure had to be spiking. She had to be scared. That's when something might have happened. And if that did happen, they wouldn't be carrying a dead body a long ways. They would possibly get rid of it, immediately in the area. For some reason, they believe that the body might be around the general area of her house because they haven't found anything else.
Logan, real quick, I did want to mention the historical precedent for this, where if we could go back to 1932, and one nice thing with Unknown, as we are a Fox company, we have access to Fox Movietone with their newsreels of how they covered it in the day. And I was fascinated by this newsreel, if we could play it real quick, just of how they present the kidnapping of Charles Lindbergh's baby in 1932, the crime of the century, as they called it. But if we can play that clip right now.
And here are motion pictures of the baby taken by members of the family and given out by Colonel Lindbergh to aid the public in recognizing him. They are the only films ever made of the child, and only the gravity of the emergency led the Colonel to depart from his well-known aversion to publicity in everything concerning his family and personal matters. When the baby was stolen, he was under the doctor's care, and Mrs. Lindbergh's chief fear was that his health might be neglected. Therefore, she issued an appeal to the kidnappers, saying that her baby has been ill and his recovery depended on the treatment he received.
So, Logan, if you could talk about this real quick, just the fascination that we as Americans have with celebrities, the celebrity factor, and how that plays into kidnapping and, of course, their loved ones becoming targets of this crime.
Yeah. People go after celebrities, but I don't understand why these people sent the ransom notes to television stations. It brought the world of publicity down on them. Everybody's fascinated with celebrity kidnapping. Everybody's really fascinated with kidnapping. But celebrities, they go after because they got the money. You go where the money is. I think it was Dillinger. They asked him, why do you rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. You go after celebrities because they've got money. And there's been a fascination for these cases all the time. Other serial killers, often like the Zodiac killer, the BTK killer, they wanted publicity. They wanted to play with the police department and play with the press. That also gets an audience, a huge audience, paying attention to it and concentrating on it all the time.
And Logan, we have other historical cases, John Getty, Frank Sinatra Jr. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. Is there any reason to believe that they're just all different, I guess, in how they play out, right?
Yeah, you never know what the exact motive is. Sinatra's kid, who was the Italian guy? At one time it was
John Getty III, right?
Yeah, John Getty III. And when they cut his ear off and sent it to him, he said, now the world will know what the Italian word vendetta really means.
And I believe in that case too, the ransom was for $17 million, but J. Paul Getty gave $2.2 million, which was the maximum tax deductible amount at the time.
That's cold.
For his grandson.
That's cold.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I've gotten kidnappers down. They always ask for a ridiculous amount of money. In Mexico, at one time, there was 8 kidnappings a day. In Colombia, there was 11 kidnappings a day. It's a business. Here in the United States, it happens in the Chinese and Vietnamese communities. There's kidnapping. They will never go to the police because they don't trust the police, because in the country that they come from, the police are involved in the kidnapping, and they know that. So that's the last part. That's why they hire private detectives. I've done kidnapping for ransom in the Vietnamese and Chinese communities here, and not one word ever hits the press. They don't want anybody to know. No family wants somebody to know that one of their members was kidnapped, they paid a ransom, and got him back. Because then everybody else is going to go, oh, that's who you kidnap, because they pay money. And it doesn't hit the news or anything. So it's there's no rhyme or reason why people do a kidnapping other than money.
Money.
It's just
Logan, and you said it's a business, but those situations were decades ago. Can anybody get away with this in the modern world we live in with all this technology and all these cameras?
Guthrie's getting away with it. I had one recently in Myanmar. It used to be Burma. And it was a Vietnamese gentleman who came from Vietnam, went to Myanmar for a construction job. His sister and brother-in-law lived in the United States, and they got a phone call from him, and he said, I've been kidnapped, and they're holding me for money and this amount of money and blah, blah, blah. And they hired me, and I had an investigator in Thailand, and I had him go up to Myanmar and go to the construction site and do the investigation. And to make a long story short, we found out within about a week. I had the investigator go to all the hotels, and we showed a picture in the hotel. People said, yeah, that guy rented a room here. And my investigator said, was he alone? And they said, yeah, he was alone, and all the time in the room. And we found out that the man was not kidnapped. He was actually trying to extort his own family out of money. When we caught him, we kicked the hotel room door open. He jumped off of the balcony from his hotel room. But unfortunately, he was only on the second floor of the hotel. So all he did was break his leg, and he wound up in the hospital. I told the sister, I said, look, I can get him out of Myanmar. The Myanmar police are looking for him now too, because we went to them and talked to them. And I said, do you want me to get him out of the hospital before the police get him and get him back here to you? And the sister said, no, The hell with him. He tried to extort us. Leave his ass there.
Well,
He'll be in jail in Myanmar.
He was smart enough to know Logan Clarke's at the door. I'm getting out of here one way or another. Go ahead, Trent.
Heard a kick. Hey, well, I did want to ask, just as you've talked to so many families in the position of holding out hope with each day just getting tougher and tougher, if you had a message to the Guthrie family right now, what would it be?
Hold out hope and pray, but be prepared for bad news with her medical condition and the length of time. With every day that goes by, you have to prepare. You can't pump them up and say, hey, keep that hope up. We're going to find her. You've got to let them know. Prepare yourself from what might be the bad news. And let's all pray that doesn't happen and everybody can celebrate and she's found okay. I doubt, in my professional opinion, I hope to God it's not true. I hope through some miracle she's still alive, but most probably she's not.
Yeah, those are tough, but probably perhaps realistic words there. But we appreciate you going through all this with us, Logan. And, I guess we just can hope for the best, like you said, and hope we have a nice ending to the story.
Yeah, and we have about a minute.
Let your viewers know that's not all we do. We're a big agency all over the world. We do all the things that private detective agencies do. I got a girl out of kidnapping. I don't know if you have time. I got a girl out of kidnapping. Just a few months ago, I got an email from this woman, and she said, you probably don't even know my name. She said, but when I was 16 years old, I was in human trafficking, and you rescued me from human trafficking, and that was 15 years ago.
Oh my God!
And I'm gonna give a speech at a human trafficking convention. I'm an elected official now in Texas. And she said, I wanted to, as I was writing my speech, I thought, I never thanked that man. So she asked her mom who it was. She didn't remember. And she wrote me a beautiful letter that said, I want to thank you.
Logan,